Hello friends, welcome to FDR India. Let's talk to Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan about an important issue. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Ankit.
Earlier today, Chandrababu Naidu, ex Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh state, was arrested in a very dramatic fashion. So my question to you is our competitive politics becoming vengeful politics?
You said it, Ankit. Now let us play a mind game. Donald Trump recently was arrested, a mugshot was taken, and instantly was given bail. But a mugshot was taken as a common criminal.
Right.
Where was arrested? In a state governed by his party. He is the top leader of the Republican Party, former president, and probably tomorrow the candidate of the Republican Party for the presidency in America. In America, if you are the presidential candidate, you are the leader of the party. That is the custom. The party is governed by the Republican Party. The state of Georgia, George Kemp, the governor, Republican. The legislature, majority Republican. And nobody anywhere in the world or in the United States, except the highly partisan supporters of Donald Trump, nobody seriously believes that he was being victimized because of party. You take Britain. If somebody is arrested or somebody is prosecuted, the assumption is that rule of law is there is evidence, and there is a thorough independent investigation, not influenced by those in power, and fair investigation, and based on evidence, arrest is there and prosecution is there. That is the expectation, and that's the reality all over. Can anybody honestly believe that if a party leader is arrested in India, it is only because of the evidence and because of independent investigation and prosecution? We don't have it. At least earlier, there were certain minimum norms followed. A man called Myron Weiner, very distinguished political thinker and sociologist. He passed away, he's no more. He worked in MIT mostly. He argued, at least to be a functioning democracy, even if it's not a good democracy, there are 4 conditions to be fulfilled. One is genuine political competition. Right. Just because you have make-believe elections like in China, Russia, or even a place like Turkey, etc., it doesn't become genuine political competition. These are all namesake elections. Real political competition. Then political freedoms. If you don't have the freedoms to express your views, to reach out to the people, to assemble, and to organize, then there is no, even if the elections are held, there is no democracy. The third one is, winners do not punish losers merely because they lost the election. You don't beat up because you lost the election. You may have lost the opportunity to serve the people, but you are not criminalized, you are not jailed, you are not beaten up, you are not killed. Unlike, say, in Russia, an opposition leader, almost certainly you'll be jailed, you'll be poisoned, you'll be killed, you'll be beaten up. That's why nobody considers Russia a democracy.
Right.
Russia may be a friend of India's, but nobody in his right mind considers Russia as a democracy. In China, we know much more openly, China is what it is. In India, increasingly, we have come to a stage where this basic norm is violated. That you do not put people in jail just because they're in opposition. You do not beat them up, you do not kill them, you do not hurt them, you do not indulge in abuse like gundas. All over the country, it became a very permissive thing. And the fourth one is a rule of law. That the law treats everybody equally, irrespective of power. That anyway is not there in India. But at least the basic decency, that you don't physically attack the opposition leaders because they lost the election. And they don't, in turn, when they are in power, they don't attack you physically. And they don't foist cases. And they don't selectively prosecute. This was an accepted norm. Tamil Nadu broke that even 20 years ago. When DMK was in power, Ms. Jayalalitha was out of power, she was humiliated in the assembly, disrobed almost, and she publicly said that she would never enter the assembly until she becomes chief minister again. When she was in power, she returned to the opposition the same coin. An elderly leader, Stalin's father, Karunanidhi. He was arrested and jailed, and all officers and many leaders who served during that time, they were all put in jail, and vice versa. At that time, we used to think, at least in Andhra Pradesh, the combined Andhra Pradesh, however ugly the politics are, the money power, the no-holds-barred struggle for power, power as a life-or-death struggle, at least it never reached that level of lack of civility, that level of barbarity. Now we can clearly see that level is reached. An opposition leader of a great standing, who served as Chief Minister of the state for about 14 years or so, you arrest them, and nobody seriously believes it's because of the evidence and because of the law. Because crime investigation is totally under the control of the government of the day. There is no independence whatsoever. The police have become more loyal than the king. If you become more loyal than the king, whoever is in power, you pay obeisance to them and simply follow their orders blindly. There's no rule of law. And use of all kinds of weapons, beating up people, killing opponents, they are now increasingly normalized. We became a permissive society which is extremely inimical to democracy and rule of law. So now, whenever you arrest somebody, the ruling party claims that there is enough evidence, blah, blah, blah. How are they superior to others? But we know absolutely certainly in this country there is very, very selective prosecution. You never go after the ruling party fellows, even if the fellow is a relatively small man like a mandal president and municipal chairman or an MLA. MLA now is a big man. We can't even say MLA is a small man. Yes. Whether national or state, it's very selective. And then you claim that evidence is there. And are you getting convictions in India? 2G spectrum, massive corruption took place. All that they could do is put them in jail. They deserve to be in jail. There was no selective prosecution there. But we are so weak in that the only punishment awarded is they are put in prison for a long time without bail. And after 2-3 months, they all come out as great heroes with fanfare, and they come back and get elected. What kind of a system are we building? Where is rule of law in the country? If there is no rule of law, if there is no independent crime investigation, an impartial crime investigation, if police actors, Sarkari Gundas, if they become more loyal than the king of the day, and the moment the king changes, the party in power changes, police become even more loyal now to the next party in power. This is just not democracy any longer. Democracy is not merely voting and shouting. There's much more to democracy. And even the decencies we had in our country in democracy, they're increasingly being given up.
Sir, increasingly, and I think you've hinted at it in your opening remarks also, that we've seen that both at regional level and at the national level, there's a feeling that the space for opposition parties is shrinking.
If you are a ruling party man, you will never be prosecuted or arrested, no matter what. If you're an opposition man, you'll be arrested, you'll be harassed, you'll be prosecuted. And if you have a business, if you have your properties and other interests legitimately, they'll go after you, they'll destroy you. So many people, when they switch parties, they're openly saying, look, we have legitimate businesses, we are doing well, but if you're not with the ruling party of the day, they'll destroy us. Not because of competition in the market, not because they're not producing something of value in a competitive manner, but because they're not with the ruling party of the day. Now, that's a very dangerous signal to the economy and to society. And of course, democracy is completely undermined. There was a time when, even when there was genuine competition, there was civility, mutual respect. No, ruling party leader and opposition leader, they're not enemies. They are simply competing for people's favor. They're coming up with alternative agendas. And whomever people favor, they must become the people of the governing party and they must serve the people. In a true democracy, there's no power, there's only responsibility. The responsibility to get the collective good, not merely your own family's good. Today, power is about your family's good, never about the collective good. Power is about acquiring further power. Power is about making more money. Money gets power, power gets money. Now, in this climate, if you still call it a full democracy, it's not entirely true. I yield to none in my admiration for India, our democracy. With all difficulties in a poor and illiterate country, we are at least holding competitive elections and free and fair elections. And we are honestly counting that. There is peaceful transfer of power. But increasingly, even that is becoming a danger. Because you're using violence as a tool, repression as a tool. Unfair arrest is a tool. You're using police as your armed forces, partisan forces. Well, there was a time, in Andhra Pradesh itself, in the early days of formation of the state, Mr. Sanjay was the chief minister.
Mm.
Mr. Gautu Lachanna, a prominent leader of North Coastal Andhra, he was the opposition leader. At the time, there was hardly any opposition, but he was a towering opposition leader. When the chief minister was touring that part of the state at the time, one Congress leader at the district level, traveling with in the car with the chief minister, he tried to curry favor with the chief minister, abusing and carrying some tales about the opposition leader, Gautu Lachanna. The chief minister stopped the car on the deserted road between two towns, asked his own party leader to get out because he's talking out of turn, abusing the opposition leader, and simply moved on. In this country, that was the behavior. That was the standard. Because in those days, politics was about sacrifice. It was about dignity. It was about public good. People gave up their own family's interests, personal interests, to serve the society. While they fought hard for power, it was for society. And today it's very personalized. We have nothing but personalized fiefdoms. Parties have become private properties. Power become private attribute. It's about you and your family. Making money, using that money to get power, again using power to make money, and to harass opposition or to suppress them, and to put fear into them, and to force them to support you if they are small enough leaders who don't have the strength, or destroy them economically. This is not politics any longer. We are becoming a banana republic.
Sir, what is fostering that decay in political civility?
There are several factors. The most important factor is, let me be utterly honest, we have now built a system to enable the people to realize what is there in the vote for them. Somehow, by a miracle, people realize that they can elect the next king. But their conception is they are electing the next king. But by some miracle, which they didn't understand adequately, their vote is what makes that fellow a king. That much they understood. Beyond that, our conception is that he is the king now. He can do pretty much what he wants. And we centralized power. And therefore, what happens on account of the vote to my life, the link between the vote and consequences to my life, is completely missing in the people's minds. And therefore, we became a vote and shout democracy. We vote with great festive atmosphere, very noisy, very robust. Unlike any other country, there's no other country where there's so much of loud election, noisy election, robust election, festive atmosphere. But from day one, after somebody assumes office, we say, Murdabad, istifa de do. So it's about vote and shout democracy. It is not a democracy where people actually understand what is happening to the world. That's why we vote blindly across the spectrum, local, state, national, without discrimination. Whereas the issues and the leaders are different at each level. You go to America, there are 25 or 30 people elected on the same ballot paper on the same day. From the president and vice president, to the governor of a state, to a senator, to a congressman, to many other local functionaries, to the mayor, school board, etc., etc. People vote for them separately. There's no blind this party versus that party. There's not even a symbol on the ballot paper. In India, if actually you remove the symbol from the ballot paper, our elections collapse. We made our elections symbolic. So, yes, there is democracy. Even then, we should be proud that there is competition, fierce competition, there is honest counting, there is peaceful voting and peaceful transfer of power. But they alone do not constitute a genuine democracy. And in the absence of the understanding of what the vote is doing to our lives, why I'm voting for whom, where, why, what happens there, vote means money. In a poor country, it's easy to entice people with money. And people have no other long-term interest, therefore they are maximizing the short-term return. Vote means short-term freebies at the cost of the long-term future, not improving education, giving skills to kids, not improving healthcare, not building infrastructure, not growing the economy, not creating employment. But I gave you this free, that free, that free. You see Karnataka, you see any state, any party, what is the thing they offer? Parties are advertising every day in news media, with the TV or newspapers. Is there one TV or newspaper advertisement of any party in power which said, we are improving the quality of education outcomes. Here is the evidence. Your children are now better off because they'll get more incomes because they have more skills. Is there one chief minister who said that? They're saying, I'm giving you free power. I'm giving you every month 2,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees. I'm giving you something else in your bank account. I'm giving you free food, as if it's their grandfather's property. It's our tax money. So all this is necessitated because people are no longer able to understand what happens because of an election to their lives. Election now is a way of making moolah in the short term. In many states, Telangana is a great example, Andhra Pradesh is a great example, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka are great examples. We all know tens of crores of rupees are spent in an assembly segment, not even crores any longer, in vote buying. And then freebies. And if these two fail, we mobilize people on this caste or that region or that religion. Because these primordial loyalties, the moment that is injected into our minds, we become tribal. So the heart of the issue is our democratic design is inadequate. Let me be blunt. Yes, we are a democracy. We are a very, very imperfect democracy and becoming more imperfect by the day. So we have to change the democratic design, decentralize power, change the electoral system. It's now too late to change the behavior of voters or the parties or the candidates within the first past the post system. Change the electoral system and bring in rule of law. At least no matter how powerful you may be, Donald Trump or Joe Biden, the law will treat you equally. If that is given, at least those in power will be handed the check. Today they know once they are in power, the law will not hold them to account. I am absolutely certain. A chief minister in India cannot be held to account. Even an MLA cannot be held to account if you are from the ruling party. That is not a democracy. At least these three things you must do. Electoral system, decentralization, and rule of law. We are nowhere near that. We are actually, even the little that is good that is happening in our political system, political culture, even that we are destroying. Now we are attacking each other very cruelly. We are becoming almost like Putin's Russia. Navalny is a fine leader, a courageous leader. When he was almost killed because of poisoning, he had to be shifted to Germany and he survived by a miracle. He could have easily stayed back in Germany. He knew what would happen to him. He knew he would be in jail forever. He is finished. His life is finished. But in an act of great courage and moral strength, he went there. Now he's in jail, rotting there. Every other day there's some conviction or other, some pretext or other. If you call it rule of law, you're talking rubbish. Indian rule of law has become very much like Russian rule of law increasingly. We cannot allow that to happen. We must wake up as a society. We must transcend the political loyalties. This party, that party, doesn't matter. You vote for whatever party you want. But look at the rule of law structure, decentralize power, change the electoral system, and please, for heaven's sake, look at the long-term good of our people and next generation, rather than instant gratification and destroying the economy of the country. So I always say I'm a great optimist, and I'm a great optimist. Despite everything that is wrong with our democracy, I believe we as a people, as a society, have done remarkably well. But if we rest on our laurels and pretend everything is okay, then I think when there is a further decline and therefore destruction of our society and the economy, we only have ourselves to blame.
Right. For the past two to three decades, we've had modest economic growth. And in this year and next year, we are having elections to major states and then the national elections. What is your message? How do we course correct from here in the next coming elections?
The immediate thing is protecting the economy, because that's one thing going in our favor. Even if we don't care for economic growth, the rest of the world wants India to grow.
Right.
It's as if that Indian leaders don't really want it. Most of the leaders, most of the parties. But the rest of the world wants us to grow because they're afraid of China. Whatever be the reason, we have now, last 30 years, we've done some right things after 1991, whichever be the party in power. They've at least done some things right after bungling and destroying the economy for a long time. So, therefore, the people's energies are liberated. Innovation, competition, choice, the desire to make something of your life, of every family, the poor and rich, uneducated and educated. Everybody is working very hard. That's giving us an opportunity. But the political parties, because of the lust for power, at the cost of the long-term good, They're willing to destroy economic growth prospects and the future of our children just to get into power. Therefore, the only election campaign now for many parties is I give you this free, I give you that free. Not infrastructure, not quality education outcomes, not quality healthcare, not a climate for investment, not a climate to create more manufacturing, more services, more enterprises, more economy, not to create jobs and not to enhance incomes. It is to treat people as perpetual mendicants, treat our sovereigns and the taxpayers as mendicants, and pretend that with the public money, you are the benefactors, as if you are a king and the people are subjects. So that is today the first priority because there is no appetite for real political reform in India. Electoral system, decentralization, rule of law, sadly they are not on anybody's agenda. They are not on ruling party's agenda, national or state. At least opposition, when they feel they are suffering on account of failure of rule of law, they must make it central agenda. Honestly, is there one serious political leader in opposition in India at the state or national level who is making the point that we are making? That we have to do the following things: independent, impartial crime investigation, independent prosecution but accountable investigation and prosecution at the same time, but not under the political control, speedy and efficient justice, strong forensics, ably managed. Is there one political party, political leader articulating this? Isn't our rule of law in shambles in this country? 4 crore cases are pending. 2/3 are criminal cases. Even if you rape and murder, there is no real fear of conviction. But if you fall with those in power, the most innocent person can be beaten up and jailed. How can you call ourselves a civilized democracy? We must open our eyes. We must transcend caste, region, religion, and political party. We made political parties into another religion. Our loyalty to a party is no more than our loyalty to our children and our country's future. How can you be so utterly short-sighted, so utterly tribalized? I'm not even talking about great patriotism. I'm saying, think of your children's future. What kind of a society in your own environment, in your own mohalla, in your own street, in your own town, what kind of a society you want to see 10 years hence, 20 years hence? You want might to become right? So we are, in some respects, economy gives us an opportunity, therefore protect it, because my hope is at least if the incomes grow, if economic growth momentum is not lost, then as incomes rise, people become more self-confident. Once the basic needs are met, they will think about liberty, their children's future, and rule of law. Even if the language is not the same that they use, they will understand the sense of equality, egalitarianism. They will fight for that. If even that is destroyed, the only thing that we have in our favor as a society and country, economic growth prospects, if even that is destroyed by the short-term freebies, reckless behavior at the cost of the country, then I think my generation will have a very troubled life, the remaining part of our lives. And when we depart, we all have to depart. We will depart as very unhappy human beings. I think our generation deserves more and our country deserves more. The next generation deserves more. And on top of it, if you actually can look at decentralization, electoral system reform, and genuine rule of law institutionalized across the board, it's a very complex thing to do it. Then, of course, if that happens in the next 10, 20 years, I, for one, will be a very happy man. And when I leave this world, I don't know whether we have another life or not. It doesn't matter. But we can live contented that we have done our job and the future is safe.
Thank you, sir. And I hope that your wisdom prevails in public life. This is FDR India. Join us again next time.